You want to learn useEffect like a senior React developer, and you just find the perfect video to do that. Because in this video, I'm going to show you how to use useEffect like a senior, the simplest way, and of course, completely. I even tell you some things they are not in documentation, but you need to know them. I promise you, you're gonna love it. Let's go. So what is useEffect? UseEffect is a React hook which we can use to handle side effects. But what exactly is a side effect? For example, when you're trying to fetch data or using sockets like WebSocket or using method like setTimeout or setInterval. These are the common ones. And if you're trying to use them in your project, of course, they could make a problem. And useEffect comes and solve this problem. I think the best way to learn useEffect is at the first, we find out what is the problem with this, and then we're gonna use useEffect for solution. Then let's go to find out what is the problem with this. All right, I have a very simple application here, a state here. It's gonna start from 0. I name it counter, and here I have a button to update the value of it. And I click here. And if I click on this button, the state, the value of state gonna update from number 1 to number 2, number 3, number 4, and it gonna goes up one by one. And I display the value of state right here, right? Cool. If I refresh the page and I click in this button, we can see that it happened, and cool, it's gonna goes up. Everything is fine. There's no problem because we have no side effect, we have no fetch request, set interval, or set timeout. But if I add a fetch request here, for example, you can use set interval or set timeout. We're gonna see them in next chapters in this video, of course. And you can use Axios fetch any library you want and a fake API. It's just for test. If I go back to browser and clear here and refresh the page, we can see that yes, I have a one request to this API and I have the data. Everything is fine and cool. But the problem comes if I want to update the state here. Let's see that. If I change it, we can see that yes, this state change, but we have another request here. Another request, another request, another request. But there is no connection between them. This is a state and this is another this is just a API call here and there is no connection between them. Why we need to again call for a request when we are changing a state in our component? That's a problem because there is no changes in this API. You can see that. Yes, same data, same data, and same data. Why we need to call it again, 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 and again? We don't need that. Then we need to put this API call somewhere which just happened, just execute just one time after the first render. We don't need to call it again, 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 and whenever we change, for example, a state. Think about that. You may have so many states in your component, and when you change them, it may happen so many requests in your application, and that's of course bad. Then you need a place to put it there, which happened just once after the first run, and that place, of course, is useEffect. Now we know we can't just put a fetch request here in the body of React component. We need useEffect to handle this side effect for us. I can put useEffect here, all right, and we need to import it from React, of course. I want to import it in the first line, in the same line with useState, of course, and the end of that parenthesis, of course. Here we can pass it two different things. The first one is a function, an arrow function, and then the second one is an empty array, which is the dependencies. I will tell you about this empty array in the next chapters in this video. But now let's focus on this arrow function. This is the body of our useEffect, and everything I can tell you happened here. You can put this fetch request right here in this arrow function, And now let's see what will happen. If I refresh the page and of course clear the network tab, now we can see that yes, one time we fetch our API and we have the data here. And if I now change the state here, let me show you what will happen. Nothing happened anymore. No more fetch requests, and that's fine and cool. That's what we want, of course. And the reason of that is useEffect, because useEffect just happened one time after the first render, and we can call it this part the phase of useEffect mounting time. I'm gonna put a log here, mounting in useEffect. This is the mounting time, and I wanna put a log outside of useEffect log render part. Let's see that if I go to console tab and refresh the page, let's see what will happen. We can see that yes, the first render happened and then mounting happened, which is here. All right. And then if you change the state, we are in updating phase, and we are updating, and we don't see anymore anything about mounting time or useEffect. Then now we know that the mounting time or useEffect just happened one time after the first render, and no anymore. You can see that right here. Then here is the render part, and here is the mounting part. Now, because I want you to learn useEffect deeper, I think you need to know about React lifecycle too, how it works. Everything in the world has a lifecycle. For example, me as a human, you as a human, we have a lifecycle. We born, study, work, something else, and we die. This is the lifecycle of humans. And React lifecycle, React components, of course, has a lifecycle. Initialization, mounting, these are the phase of this lifecycle. Initialization, mounting time, updating phase, and unmounting phase. Let's see it on browser and in our application. If I refresh the page, render or the first render happened, which is initialization here, and then right after it, mounting time just happened one time. Mounting time, which we can access it with the useEffect, and then updating time, when you update anything in your project, updating time here, which may happen so many times, and the end of that, unmounting or dying or ending or exit component, right? You can handle, we see these three, and we can handle unmounting with useEffect too. If you return an arrow function in the body of useEffect, in this arrow function, if you return another arrow function here, this place is unmounting phase, and you can handle anything you want here for unmounting. And now if I go back to browser, refresh the page, render, first render or initialization, mounting time, all right, updating, and if I go to a store page, from this page, I exit this page, you can see that, yes, unmounting happened right here for me. And how we can use it, you can clear a side effect right here in unmounted, because you are ending a component, right? And if you have a side effect here and you don't need it anymore, you can clear it right here in this unmounting part. We're gonna implement a counter and we're gonna use it in next chapter. Cool. Now we want to implement an automatically counter, of course. I have a state for it. here, a counter state. It's gonna start from 0, and here in useEffect, I'm using set interval, another side effect, and for each second, we have an update, and we want to update the state and plus it to number 1. It's gonna goes from 0 to number 1, 2, 3, but automatically because each 1 second it happened. All right, and we need to put it in useEffect because I told you it's gonna happen a side effect, and we need to use useEffect for it. Let's see what will happen if I refresh the page. You can see that yes, number 0, 1, 2, 3, and it goes up clear and fine. There is no problem here. But the problem comes if you go out from this component. For that, let me to put a like here in this interval. For example, I can put named it anything counter, right? Just in this interval. Now, if I refresh the page, we can see that yes, for each number here we have a like here, and still it's fine because we put the like here. But if I go out from this component, we don't need this counter anymore, right? Let's see what will happen. If I go out, we can see that yes, it's still counting for us, and we don't need that. Yes, we need to clear this side effect when we want to go out from this component. If I go back, it's gonna start again from 0, but here you can see that we are at number, you can see that the speed of that, yes, and that's a problem. We need to clear this side effect, and where we can clear this side effect in unmounting part. Then I need to return an arrow function here. All right, this is the unmounting part I told you, and I can put this set interval in a variable, and then for example I can name it underscore counter, and I can use clear interval method and pass this to clear interval, and this is the unmounting part. Mounting, right? Now let's see what will happen. If I refresh the page, now we have again counter, counter, counter. But if I go to the store page, you can see that unmounting will call, and now clear interval call 2. And here we are clearing this side effect, and everything is fine and cool now. And that's the reason we need unmounting phase to clear some side effects like this. Now I promise you, you know everything about this part, the first one, arrow function, the body of useEffect. Then let's dive into this part, the dependency, how we can use it and why this is useful for us. Let's go back to the previous example. Let's see it again. If I refresh the page, we have we fetch our data here, and we can see that yes. If I change the state, you can't see any more API call, and that's fine, that's cool. But think about that. Sometimes you want to again fetch this request if something changed. How you can do that? You can do that with this dependency here. For example, I have the pagination, for example, user state and page. All right, and page gonna start from 0 from 1, and a button for it. Of course, here I will put the button next page, for example. And if I click on this unclick, of course, I want to change it to number 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes up like counter here. All right. Let's see that. Now if I and let me show it to you here, page. All right. Now if I refresh the page, here, we can see that if I change it, we can't see any more requests. Fine. And if I go to the next page again, you can see that no more requests here. That's fine. But think about that. When we change the page, we want another request to server to give us new data, new page. All right. Then we need to depend this request to this state. How we can do that? We can do that with passing this state right here. You can pass any state, several state here and or props. And if props or state change, it's gonna send another request to server. Let's see that if I refresh the page. And if I change the counter, let me refresh the page. Yes, we have the first request. And if I change the counter, you can't see any more requests. But if I change the next page, you can see, yes, another request, and another request. Then you can depend useEffect to something if that change useEffect happened again. And that's a good example for pagination. Now the last thing I think you need to know about useEffect. What will happen if we remove this empty array or dependency here? I put a log outside a useEffect and a log inside the body of useEffect. Let's see what will happen if I refresh the page and change the state, render happened and useEffect happened. If I click on the next page, render happened and useEffect happened too. Then if you change any state, all right, render happened, render will happen, and in this render, useEffect happened too. I think this is a part of useEffect you don't need to use so many times, but I think I never saw it someone use useEffect like this, but I think you need to know about it, how it works, because in interview they usually ask about what will happen if we remove this part of dependency from useEffect, and you need to know how to answer it. Now you know everything you need to know about useEffect like a senior React developer, even more the documentation. Guys, I put so many hours to create content like this. Then if you enjoy it, make sure to subscribe my channel. I'll leave a comment down below. See ya.